سبحانك لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك أنت المقدم وأنت المؤخر أنت على كل شيء قدير. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما والتفرق بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تدع فينا شقيا ولا محروما اللهم آمين. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most compassionate, the most merciful, all praise and thanks are due to him, and peace and blessings be upon his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He who is guided by the will of Allah, no one can misguide him, and he who is misguided, no one can guide him except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do bear witness that there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is his messenger. Brother, can I ask you to come to this side? Sometimes when sisters come, they sit here. Thank you very much, no problem. Now, let's consider last time, inshallah, we finished what is possible to be highlighted from the Battle of Uhud and what comes after. We are still historically with. Now, the most biggest event after Uhud is Ghazwat al-Khandaq or al-Ahzab. Between them, we have a lot of small things happened. I will not highlight everything. By the way, the Seerah is so rich to a degree. If I want to go into details in a pure, rich ilm style, it could take us years. I wish if you all understand Arabic, and I'm speaking in Arabic, because sometimes I skip a lot of things because if I want to translate it, the vibe, the spirit of the meaning will be missed. Because it needs an Arabic understanding, because if every single word will be translated, it will lose its meaning. So sometimes I skip a lot of things, by the way. Anyway, so from the things that happened, two events called Mantaqat al-Raji' or event of al-Raji' and Bi'r Ma'una. I will skip them because all of them has to do with fighting and backbiting and, working. What's the meaning of غدر? غدر بالإنجليزي إيش معناها؟ العرب. Betrayal. الخيانة. الخيانة, yes, because they were betrayed by some Arabs and they killed some Sahaba, but I will skip because all of the details goes about betrayal and fighting and killing and related things. And from the things, we have the problem of Banu Nadir as well. They broke the covenant and they did something horrible to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and they were pushed to leave. So for the reasons that you know, I will skip as well. Okay? So these three events, or even four events, I will skip them. And I will mention some others. Oh, Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah fiqh. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair. Jazakumullah khair. Akramakumullah. Allah yarham walidaykum, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. I will be highlighting two events, which is general, what we call Ghazwat Badr al-Thaniya, the second Ghazwat Badr. Some people might be astonished to say, but we have just one Ghazwat Badr. Actually, we have two. Now, which is very interesting to know. Ghazwat Badr al-Thaniya, in simple, it's a very nice event to know. You know, when Badr happened, the main idea of Badr, it was a pure, amazing, beautiful planning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah led them to there by the will of Allah. It was Yawm al-Furqan, the day of separation between haqq and batil, between truth and falsehood. So the hit was very big against the mushrikeen. So they decided to take revenge in Uhud. You know, in Uhud, at the very beginning, the victory was with Muslims. Then happened the archers, they disobeyed the commandments and it turned around against Muslims. So they lost tens of the Sahaba. Subhanallah, by the will of Allah, the mushrikeen, they did not complete vanishing and killing Muslims, they just left. So next day, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in the same time, Abu Sufyan, next day, 24 hours, they were camping they started reviewing what happened. They say, hey, you did not kill Muhammad. You did not give major victory. Why not to go back again to Medina and kill them? Now, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, immediately he prepared and he asked, it was not compulsory. However, he recommended, he said, who would love to chase them with their injuries? So they followed them and they flee as cowards. And they were called Jubana. Okay? So, now we know this. One of the things that happened when Uhud happened, Abu Sufyan challenged Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He said, if you are men, we will see you next year in the same place of Badr where you think that you won, so we will take revenge of you. So come next year. And it happened this. Next year, in the exact time, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came with his soldiers into the place. Who did not show up? Abu Sufyan and the Mushrikeen. So, you know, it's among the Arabs, who's the coward? Who won? That's why it's considered in the Seerah the second Ghazwat Badr. It's called Ghazwat Badr al-Thaniya because they came, they reached, and they showed their power, and they did some activities, and everyone, because subhanallah, if you remember, if you go back a little bit, the reputation and the pride for Arabs has a priority in their life. That's why, if you remember Abu Jahl, when the caravan of Abu Sufyan was saved, he received the news that khalas, our money is in a safe place, so there is no need to fight. What did he say? Say, no. Allah wallahi hatta na'tiya ma'a badr wa nashrab al-khamr wa tughanni lana al-qiyan wa tasma' bina al-arab. Look to this. He said, no, I will not leave it. Okay, even if it caravan, even if our money is in a safe hands now, no, we will reach the place we are supposed to fight, which is Badr. We will settle down there. We will camp there. We will drink alcohol. We will celebrate. We will drink al-khamr, and our slave girls will dance and sing for us, and so that every single Arab will hear about us. They are talking about the power now. Okay? They want to prove their superiority. Subhanallah. So after Uhud, Muslims, they went there. Fadl, we are here. Where are you, Abu Sufyan? No one came. So who proved his power? The Muslims. That was called Ghazwat Badr al-Thaniya. Even though no one fought, anyone, but it was called because they came. They were ready to fight, but they did not meet any kind of. They were called in some of the Surah, قال ولم يأتي الجبناء. The cowards, they did not come at that time. Abu Sufyan at that time, he was a mushrik, so he was called al-Jaban. Then he became a Muslim radiyallahu anhu. This is one of the events happened between Uhud and from the things that happened historically. Now, and there is another details about Ghazwa called Ghazwa Dawmat al-Jandal. Now, the details are not very authentic. But let me tell you something. The narrations of the Seerah, they are not under the same category like the Ahadith. I mean, the conditions that ulama, they put for the Hadith of legislations, haram and halal, which is in Bukhari and Muslim and Sunan Abi Dawud, which will tell you and me that do and don't, which is haram and halal, is not the same criteria like the historical events. It's less, which is the nature of the history. Okay? Because, by the way, yet, even though the way of filtering the narrations of the Seerah is 100 times than any other narration of history among other nations. But I'm comparing us with us. Comparing the Sunnah in terms of Sahih, Mutawatir and Kada with some narrations of the Seerah. So that sometimes it's a historical event. In terms of the Hadith Sahih, it's not Sahih. It might be less than Hasan or even Da'if. But sometimes a Da'if narration in the Seerah, it could be equal to more than Hasan in the legislations, because it's historical events, unless if it's something contains legislation.
It's another way of dealing. So that's why there is no good isnad for it. So Sheikh Muhammad al-Ghazali in his book Fiqh al-Seerah, he says about غزوة الجندل. Look, what is it? قال جاءت أخبار إلى المدينة أن القبائل حول دومة الجندل وهي منطقة قريبة من الشام. The area of دومة الجندل in the northwest of what we know now as Saudi Arabia, or شمال الجزيرة العربية, north, which is very close to the south of بلاد الشام, Levant, which is Palestine, Jordan, and this area, that area. دومة الجندل قال منطقة قريبة من الشام, a close area from Levant. طق أن قبائل, some of the tribes in that area, the area of دومة الجندل, قالوا they used to do قطع الطريق والنهب, which is like thugs and gangsters. They used to do the mushrikeen of the tribes, part of their custom to do nahb, to attack, to kill, to steal, to take the prisoners, to enslave them. So some of the tribes, it was simply a group of thugs and gangsters. Everyone goes from that area, they used to attack. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ decided to punish them because no one is safe anymore. Even though, look what it says. قال فخرج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في 1000 من المسلمين يكمن بهم نهارا ويسير ليلا حتى يفاجئ أعداءه. Look what he did. Look to the political, let's say, plan. 15 days of travel with 1000 Muslim soldiers. قال كان يكمن بهم نهارا ويسير بهم ليلا. He used to hide them, kumun, which means they used to settle and to hide themselves in the day. So no one can see, because basically an army, the speed of an army of 1000, let's say it's 10 kilometers a day. One person with a good horse, he could do 3 to 4 double. So if someone recognizes that they are there, they need 10 days. In 3 days, any person can go until that there is an army coming after a week. Because it's an army, 1000, you see? Just when they want to stop and settle down, to camp and to eat, it takes them 5 hours. A person, 2 minutes. Subhanallah. So therefore, part of their strategic military plans, they used to do kumun, which means they hide themselves in the day, they don't move, and they move just at night. For 15 days at night, قال 15 ليلة, 15 nights, قطعها المسلمون بمعونة دليل ماهر. They had a very excellent professional guide, because moving at night in the desert need an expert. قال فلما بلغوا مضارب خصومهم اجتاحوها مباغتين. So when they reached the area of these gangsters, because they were tribes, hundreds and maybe thousands of them, they were killing the people and attacking them. When they reached the area, they attack them out of a sudden, without even knowing that someone is coming. They're not expecting. Can you expect, like, imagine for example the mafia. Mainly the mafia, everyone is afraid of them. So you don't expect anyone to attack them, apart from the police. Even the police sometimes, they are controlling even the police. Sometimes, the mafia in some countries, they are controlling the vice president and the president and the king himself and everything. So they are people that are afraid of them. So those gangsters, so Prophet Muhammad did mubaghata, which means suddenly, out of a sudden, he just attacked them. قال ففرت الجموع المتأهبة للسطو. They were preparing themselves to attack some of the people here and there. Out of a sudden, they just flee and left everything. So they left their spoils. The horses, they left the camels, they left the she-camels, they left the, all the kind of money. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ took all of these things. It's like a big punish for those. Called those غزوة الجندل. قال ففرت الجموع المتأهبة وأصاب المسلمون سوائمهم ورعاءهم وكانت لبني تميم إلى آخره. This is غزوة الجندل. It's called غزوة. And by the way, when they say غزوة and Seerah, Ghazwa were a group of Muslims, regardless. Sometimes it could be hundreds, sometimes tens, sometimes 1000, sometimes just a small number. If the Prophet is with them, they call it Ghazwa. If the Prophet sent them without going with them, they call it Seerah. It's a terminology, but it's by the commandment of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, this period between Uhud and Al-Khandaq, from the things that happened, which Uhud it happened third year. Al-Khandaq around 5th year. So in these 2 years from the events that happened. زواج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بأم المؤمنين زينب بنت خزيمة رضي الله عنها. المؤمنين زينب بنت خزيمة has something very specific. She was the second wife of Prophet Muhammad after Khadija that passed away. She lost her husband, and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ asked her to marry him. She accepted, and she lived with him just 8 months, and she passed away. Rahimahullah, radiyallahu anha. Her best title, that's why we have a very, very little information about Zainab bint Khuzaymah. She was a wife, but we have a very little. The most well-known title about her, do you know what is it? Who's saying? Yes, mashallah. al-Masakin, the mother of the poor and the miskin. She became wife of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. She dedicated her life just to take care of widows, orphans, poor and needy, doing nothing except taking care of them and doing the ibadah. 8 months and she passed away. As a wife of the Prophet, she took the honor and she left. Very little information. By the way, wives of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, amazingly, the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you mentioned, because from the things that happened after that, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ married from Salama as well. So, Zainab bint Khuzaymah and Salama. In this context, Salama has a very beautiful story as well. When Salama and Abu Salama, both of them, they were from the first group of immigration who went to Al-Habasha. And Abu Salama was a great Muslim. وكان ابن عمة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He had a relation with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he passed away. After he passed away, Salama, she felt really very sad. She said something like, nothing will compensate me after Abu Salama. Subhanallah. Abu Bakr asked her hand to marry her. She refused. Umar asked her hand. She refused. She did not know what's happening. Then Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked for her hand. Now, believe it or not, she accepted, but she told him something. قالت إني امرأة غير. What was the exact word that she used? قال إني إني غيرة، أي شديدة الغيرة. قال وإني مصبية، أي ذات صبية. She said, Ya Rasulullah, before I give you my answer, I'm very, very jealous person, which means if you accepted me as a wife, I might cause some difficulties for you with your other wives. Look how frank she was. She didn't say, خلاص, no. Please know that about me. I might not be able to control myself. Subhanallah. And to the best of my knowledge, we did not receive any kind of troubles between her and the others. But she said that as a precondition just to tell about herself. And she had 4 orphans from Abu Salama. The last one of them, Zainab, she was still pregnant when he passed away. So she gave birth. Then Prophet Muhammad ﷺ married her. So she was in a breastfeeding for Zainab bint Abu Salama with 4 orphans. Now, Salama, good things, because as I told you, Seerah, we need information. Salama, believe it or not, do you know who's her brother in breastfeeding? أخوها بالرضاعة. The brother of Salama بالرضاعة, who is he? It's very difficult to know because anyone could be. Ammar bin Yasir. عمار بن ياسر شقيق سلمة بالرضاعة. وأبو اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. وأبو سلمة ابن عمة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وشقيقه بالرضاعة. سبحان الله. Anyway, look, Salama. As long as we mention Salama and Zainab bin Khuzayba, it's good to mention some beautiful details about them. You know, non-Muslims, and especially the Orientalists and some missionary writers during the history of the fighting or clashes between Muslims and European missionaries in a specific, they wrote a lot of books and things attacking Muslims. On top of things that they used to attack is to accuse Prophet Muhammad that what he was just looking for her, his sexual appetite. Look, he was married from 11 wives. Anyone goes in depth to the reality will know that this is just a fake piece of information and it's just a lie. Except Aisha, all of them, they were either divorced or widows. And some of them with kids like Salama. And some of them is elder than him. Now look, the opponent's team, some of the non-believers, they were holding the fake idea that, okay, he was a very sexual person. Okay, because he was just an Arab leader and a king and he was power type, logically. Now, question for any normal man. If you are a leader and you are controlling thousands of the people, you have the choice to choose a virgin and a widow or a divorced. What do you choose? It's by nature. But if you have the power just to choose, do you choose a widow with kids with the age equal to your age or young? It's the fitrah. So, what about 90% of them divorced and widows? One of them is elder and some of them with kids. The whole theory collapsed. It's against logic. It's against logic, subhanAllah. So when you come to details. Now, Prophet Muhammad's marriage, each one of them has a wisdom. And by the way, none of them but by the commandment and the permission of Allah. Muhammad ﷺ was not choosing the marriage because he wanted. Allah, even Aisha, by the way, he told Aisha that, Ya Aisha, inni urituki fil manami annaki zawjati. He told her that I used to see you in my dream. Before that, you will be my wife. It's, you know, وَرُؤْيَا الْأَنْبِيَاء wahi. It's part, the vision or the dream for a prophet like Ibrahim alayhi salam. قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحه قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. It's good to know the following from the wisdoms. Sometimes it's to gain the hearts of the people. Like, for example, Safiya bint Huyay ibn Akhtar. Like Zainab I forget her name, بن المصطلق, Zainab جويرية. جزاك الله خير. Who said it? جويرية بنت الحارث. Juwayriyah bint al-Harith, when Prophet Muhammad married her, she was the daughter of the head of the tribe of Bani al-Mustalaq. When Prophet Muhammad married her, they became, the whole tribe, all of them, they came to Islam. All of them. SubhanAllah. So Juwayriyah bint al-Harith had this reason. Aisha to honor Abu Bakr. Hafsa to honor Umar. Now, in general, one of the general wisdom of having more than one to give us the details of the very private, secret details of the daily life Prophet Muhammad as a role model. And look to this. The prophets, the wives of the Prophet, they narrated around 3,000 hadith from Prophet Muhammad 3,000. Guess what? 2,200 just by one of them. Aisha. Around 200 80 to 300 Salama. And the rest with the rest. Most of them 60 something, 40 something. Aisha 2,200 hadith. Do you know what this means? Salama, she was a specialist in ahkam shar'iyya, in legislation, the fiqh. And Salama, she was having a very wise way of thinking. She was the reason for preventing a disaster with the Muslims. You know where? Salama. Hudaybiyah, yes, Sulh al-Hudaybiyah. When they went to do the Umrah and they prevented them and they were about to fight. And what will happen? The Bay'at al-Ridwan, the covenant of the Ridwan. When Prophet Muhammad ﷺ commanded them to break their ihram, khalas, there is no Umrah because they did ihram. They refused. I mean, they were not humanly able to accept that those mushrikeen, those kuffar, they forced us not to do it. So Salama, she said, Ya Rasulullah, she understands by her wisdom the psychology of the men. They are fighters. So they were insulted from their point of view. So they want to fight back. She said, Ya Rasulullah, go to the top of the hill, shave. Don't say anything. Ask your barber to come and shave. Let them see you. This was the opinion of Salama. So Salama, he just, without saying anything, all of them started shaving. Khalas, they broke their ihram. The problem is finished. So Allah protected the Sahaba from being disobedient. He was asking them, they are refusing. You know, maybe someone said, what? You see, sometimes when the event is very heated, sometimes psychologically people, they lose their logical common sense. Salama was the key point of solving this disaster. And she was the second biggest narrator of hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And guess what? She was what as well? It's good because we are mentioning here. Yeah, forget. Zainab bint Khuzaymah, the first one who passed away after Khadija, 8 months, and Salama, the last one of them who passed away. At the time of Muawiyah, radiyallahu anhuma. Subhanallah. She lived, I think, 70 something or 80. She was, I think, either 80 or 70 something. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. So this is something quick about things happen. Just to try to imagine that, for example, Khadija, after Al-Hijrah, we have Aisha, we have Zainab bin Khuzaymah, then we have, after third year, Salama, and she lived with Muhammad ﷺ all of his life till he passed away. Now, from the things that happened in that time, this 1 year and a half, 2 years as well, in that specific timing, Tahrim al-Khamr. What? The prohibition of al-Khamr, alcohol, it's after the third year, between third and fourth year, which means 13 plus 3 plus, it's around 16 years out of 23. Allah did not push them or force them to stop drinking alcohol. But it happened gradually, with steps. But at that time, the final, let's say, decision, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made. Aisha says, there's a very beautiful hadith narrated by Aisha. And keep in your mind that Aisha was considered one of the greatest ulama of the Sahaba. That's why, by the will of Allah, generally all the wives, each one of them has a reason. Like Juwayriyah, for example, to bring Banu Mustalaq and all. Safiya, try to, for the Jews. Now, Aisha, it was an exceptional case. The only virgin, very small, and she has a very exceptional characteristics. When you study the shakhsiyyat character of Aisha, she was genius, not clever, genius. And by the way, she used to be Nassaba as well. And her father, Abu Bakr, was one of the greatest Nassaba. We explained that. He was an expert in the lineage of the Arabs. Who is married to who is the godfather of who, from when, who is very important. It's data. It's like, by the way, It's like the data that security forces have now in their, you know, in their hard disks or in their databases or something, which is very serious. So she was an expert about the habits of the Arabs, their relations, very educated, because she lived with Abu Bakr. He was a very well-known person among the Arabs and Quraysh. Abu Bakr, by the way, was a rich merchant, very strong ties, highly respected by the people. He used to fix the problem with the people. So she lived in a place where she received. And she was an exceptionally genius. And we know that from the way of dealing with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And then after that, she was one of the great Sahaba. She used to disagree with them, to discuss them, and to teach them. Aisha Faqiha, she was a alima, because she lived with Muhammad ﷺ most of the times, and we know she was so close to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that he asked the permission when he was about to pass away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In his final moments, he asked the permission the last few days from all of his wives to stay the final hours and days in his life with Aisha. Gives you an idea about what Aisha was. So Aisha radiallahu anha says, أول ما نزل من القرآن سورة من المفصل فيها ذكر الجنة والنار حتى إذا ثاب الناس إلى الإسلام نزل الحلال والحرام ولو نزل أول شيء لا تشربوا الخمر لقالوا لا ندع الخمر أبدا ولو نزل لا تزنوا لقالوا لا ندع الزنا أبدا. Now Aisha, she's explaining and giving you a brief conclusion for the divine wisdom. She's analyzing now the order of the revelation. She said, from what I witnessed at the very beginning in Mecca, قال نزل سورة المفصل فيها ذكر الجنة والنار. The very short, powerful surahs which talk about the hereafter, the paradise, the hellfire, the aqidah, fixing the faith. قال حتى إذا ثاب الناس إلى الإسلام. When the people, they accepted Islam and their faith was firm, قال نزل الحلال والحرام. Next, which means at Al-Madinah. Now, which is obligation, prohibited, recommended. قال ولو شوف, she's a faqihah. She's a very clever. She said لو نزل أول ما نزل لا تشرب الخمر. She says, if the first thing came, don't drink alcohol, they say, we don't care, we will drink. Because you are just, attacking them on something for hundreds of years they do it. So you need a very strong faith to accept to change your style of life. And by the way, this happens with all of us. Simple example. How many of us, we are educated about health problems, about our food style or about the diet system? We all know. How many of us really are ready to listen to change their style of life? For example, drinking coffee, for example. Or drinking tea. Or eating the carbs. Or the sugar. We all know the disaster of this. We say tons of things. Even when you go to the doctor, not easily we listen to them. They told us, you have to stop eating sugar. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll do my best. Jazakallah khair. We go back and we keep eating. We don't care. Wallahi, sometimes you need to have a very, very strong faith to accept the doctor with his way, or his warnings, or his expertise, or something to make you afraid that someone tell you, look, and someone that you trust, that he is an expert. Your blood work says you will die in 6 months if you don't stop it. What? And he's not anyone, he's a very strong, trustworthy source of that. You will have this kind of fear will push you to take a decision to stop the sugar or the chocolate or the carbs or whatever. Otherwise, we don't care. We know, but we don't care. This is a reality. How many of us, we have people keep pushing us, you have to do sports. Be careful. Don't be fat in this area. This means you will develop diabetes very soon. This we know. The knowledge, I think everyone knows. But who applies? Very little. SubhanAllah. This gives you an idea. I mean, it's not just to know. No. You need to accept, you need to trust, you need to believe. So that's why Aisha is analyzing very nice way. حتى إذا نزل ثاب الناس والإسلام, when they return back to Islam, simply خلاص now الحلال والحرام. She continues رضي الله عنها. قال لقد نزل بمكة على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإني لجارية ألعب بل الساعة موعدهم والساعة أدهى وأمر. Look how she's using the very brief description. She said, when I was a young girl playing in Mecca, before she was married, she was still under, her father. قال محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم received بل الساعة. She's giving an example about the style of the language of the Quran from the Mecca verses. Okay? قال بل الساعة موعدهم والساعة أدهى وأمر, as an example. من سورة القمر, verse 40, which is, better yet, the hour is their appointed time, and the hour will be most catastrophic and most bitter. قال وما نزلت سورة البقرة والنساء إلا وأنا عنده. Look how she make it. She's giving an idea. She quoted one verse from Surah Al-Qamar. Just بل الساعة أدهى وأمر بل الساعة موعدهم. I was a young girl in Mecca when he received that. While Al-Baqarah and An-Nisa, it came when I was with him as a wife, which means, and she didn't say Al-Madinah, she said وأنا عنده, which means after the immigration. You see, she's maybe 10, 15 hours after that. Al-Baqarah wal-Nisa, because Al-Baqarah still did not come once, different verses. When you go to the Surah Al-Baqarah, أحكام الطلاق والظهار والحج والصوم, the legislation of, yes, والدين والبيع. It's nearly most of the big titles of rulings in Islam, you find it in chapter Al-Baqarah. So she's giving a brief idea about the. Now, she said this in the context of talking about Tahrim al-Khamr, as if she's expecting by her, high IQ, that the people will ask, but al-Khamr, it's al-Khaba'ith. Why what is not prohibited in Mecca? As if she's expecting, and she's giving the answer why it was late relatively. 16 out of 23. You are talking more or less about 2/3 of the age of Islam. So now in another riwayah, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu says, صنع لنا عبد الرحمن ibn Auf طعاما. Now Ali ibn Abi Talib narrates that Abdul Rahman bin Auf made a meal, and he invited them. قال وسقانا من الخمر. It was up to that moment still, the graduality of the drinking, because يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. Some of the Sahaba, like Umar, if I'm not mistaken, he said ما أراها إلا تمهيدا لتحريمها. He picked the idea immediately. Umar, he said, this is a step. I know for sure that at a certain time it will be prohibited in full. Because إثمهما أكبر من نفعهما, which means their harm, which is true. Now, by the way, if you want to discuss with anyone about what we consider religiously prohibited, use with him the concept, the common sense, human, ethical concept of harms and benefits. Alcohol. Don't say Islam says haram, say come. Generally, who drink alcohol, are they benefiting more or they are harmed more? Can anyone disagree with that? One of the top reasons for car accidents, one of the top reasons on earth in the Western specific, and domestic violence. Husbands, they come drunk, starting using the punch books, which is their wives. Wallahi, I know one of the statistics from a research, but very old, 20 years ago. 1 out of every 3 women who are married in the UK, they are hit by their drunk husbands on a daily basis. 33% of British women, the married British women, they are hit by their drunk husbands on daily basis. Third of the married society of British society. So can anyone, but you know, I enjoy drink. I know that you enjoy. The zina contains enjoyment. I know that. Porno as well. But look to the side effects. طبعا that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. The one who sells the grape or the apple to the factory is benefiting. The one who loads with his lorry or with his truck, he's benefiting. The one who plants these things is benefiting. The one who sells benefiting. Compared with tens of millions on daily basis, they are hitting, they are urinating on themselves, causing car accidents, destroying the society, making a lot of dangerous things. Imagine when someone is drunk. Why, one of the most important things that they withdraw their license for, why, if they caught you drunk, which means this is a common sense acceptance by the legal system on earth that alcohol is dangerous. You can't disagree with that. So subhanallah, instead of having this kind of empty talks about I think, you think, I feel, you feel, research is this, Allah, haram, that's it. Alas. Because if you live, by the way, human beings are very clever to justify anything at any time if they have the power. True or false? Anything. Look what happens now in Palestine. The one who has the power is able to justify anything because they have the power. And by the way, any one of us will do it. Any one of us, if they have power, this is what I think. No, I think it's good. That's it. خلاص. That's why we need the reference to be the revelation al-wahy. If it's up to us, we'll keep changing whatever to suit us. This is the nature of the human beings. طيب. Now, Ali continues. قال, Abdurrahman made food for us, invited us, and he gave us some khamr to drink. قال فأخذت الخمر منا. Ali, he says, we became drunk. Subhanallah. قال وحضرت الصلاة فقدموني. So Ali himself now is half drunk. Subhanallah. What? Yes, because it was not prohibited. عبد الرحمن bin Auf, yes, they were drunk. La ilaha illallah. And there's a great lesson in the last few minutes. He says, قال فقدموني فقرأت. Ali, what he wanted to read from قل يا أيها الكافرون. Look what he read. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ونحن نعبد ما تعبدون. He said, oh, who you do not believe, I don't worship what you worship, but we worship what you worship. Which is contradiction in the exact, he changed the ayah completely to the opposite, because he is what? He's not controlling his mind. Subhanallah, why al-khamr is prohibited. قال فأنزل الله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون. This was not the final prohibition. Still, it's, So, after that, steps. First step, it was خيرهما وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. Their harm is much more than their benefits. Some of the Sahaba, they picked it like Umar and they stopped. Next step, this incident. لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى. Don't ever pray while you are drunk. So what happened? The only time, because drinking, I'm not expert, but what I know, that when you drink, to get rid of the influence of alcohol, it takes hours. Because we see the people, they are thrown in the pavement of the street for 10 hours sometimes. So, okay. So the only time they used to drink after the Isha up to the Fajr. So it was like minimized. Because it's the longest time without a prayer in the mid, sometimes 10, 12 hours or more. They used just to control themselves not to drink from the Fajr up to Isha. After the Isha, they drink. The last one, which is إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل فاجتنبوه. He said اجتنبوه, it contains many times more than haram. Because haram, it might be understood just haram to drink it. فاجتنبوه, it's haram to go to the place to sit with someone who drinks. to sell to someone who will use it, or to give even the fruits to the factory that will manufacture, or to use your truck or your car to hold the fruits that will go to the factory, or to sit with someone who's drinking, or any type of support, it will be haram. So al-ijtinab is much, much, much more than haram. Because some people, they say, where is the haram? I said, go and educate yourself. I mean, it's not my problem if you don't know Arabic or the Quranic Arabic. It's not my problem. Subhanallah, this is from, now let's take a lesson from this in the final, yes, Sadaq. No. This is completely another case. He's asking if someone is drinking. Subhanallah, I was about to start something has to do with that. Let me say the rule and I will answer your question. Now, we can conclude from this what some ulama, we studied this in what we call in fiqh or usul al-fiqh, the principles of Islamic jurisprudence. There's something called at-tadarruj fi at-tashri', the graduality in legislation. This happened at the time of revelation, explained by Aisha. Now we have what? Tadarruj fi at-tatbiq. We have graduality in application. Graduality in legislation. We have a gradual. The hukum is fixed now. No one can disagree or argue that alcohol is haram, or wearing the gold for men is haram, or wearing a silk for men is haram. It's a fixed, khalas. But if a new person has now just revert to Islam, you need to be wise to tell him, or he would like to accept Islam. And let's imagine that he's committing 10 of the haram things in Islam. In light of understanding that graduality of legislation, you do ijtihad to give him a plan how to get rid the graduality from the haram things as a new Muslim. Does that mean that I'm agreeing on him doing haram? No. But simply I just close my eye because we have priorities. If he's, for example, God forbid, if he's a member in a gangs, for example, he's a gangster and he's shooting the people on the street, and he drinks alcohol, and he commits dinner with his girlfriends, and he has a riba loan. Are they in one line? No. Definitely no. I will tell him all of them the haram, but he said, no. I said, okay, please, maybe the most serious thing, stop killing the people. Maybe you'll do ijtihad, depending on understanding. Maybe you will convince him to reduce the alcohol, and simply you don't say anything about his girlfriend. Definitely don't say anything about the golden ring in his hand. Don't ever mention it. So imagine how unwise I will be if I made him feel that this golden ring is equal to, for example, drinking alcohol or committing the zina or killing someone. I will be a crazy person. Yani ya sheikh, but the gold is haram, you know it. I know, wallahi, that's haram. But why you did not tell him? This is the wisdom of da'wah in taking the graduality in that. Now, coming to your question, brother. Now, in general, I need to do ijtihad. The brother asked, if a member of the family is drinking alcohol, am I allowed to take him with my car? It depends. Who is this member? Is he my father or my son or my brother? Do I have an authority in dealing with him or not? If he's just a member of family and he's equal to me in authority, which means I don't have a power. If I'm a father with a son, unlike that's a brother with a brother. This is part of the wisdom of the da'wah. If I have authority, it means I'm more responsible in the sight of Allah. Okay? But if I'm an inferior with superior, I'm a son and he's a father. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي. Not drinking. He's asking me to commit kufr 24/7. I have to be nice with him, to bring his medicine, and to take care of him, and to take him to the washroom, and to clean his body, and to bring his food while he's maybe attacking Allah and Muhammad every single day. La ilaha illallah. So it's not the same, it depends. Number one, what type of authority do I have? Two, how much frequent is this? And when I give him, is it something that I'm helping directly in drinking alcohol, or it's part of our human dealings? Yani, there's a big difference. For example, he's my brother. So we are in equal authority. Or my cousin. Hey, I don't have a car. Can you give me a ride? Where do you go? I want to go to the pub. It's much less difficult than if he's drinking alcohol generally in his life, but can you give me a ride to the bus station, go to university? This will be like any of us. By the way, none of us, but we commit some kind of sins. None of us, including myself. All of us, we have our shortage. So any of us could be under this criteria, which means we can't stop dealing with nice things because they might be committing something haram, which definitely. Unless if I'm supporting directly the haram. Like for example, can I come with you to the pub and say, I'm sorry, don't let me help in this, for example. Unless, as I told you, if he's my father, or I have another consideration. I'm still in the process of making dawah for him, and he's an addict. And it's not the time to preach him. I want just to gain his heart. So there is no black and white answer. You must do ijtihad, which means put an effort to try to analyze. What's the core point? Am I in the process of bringing him close, preaching him, making da'wah, making him closer? Do I have authority? Do I have a good relation? Can I, if I was nice with him, can I do something better? Or I'm just, I'm subjugated to his will, and he's just using me. So I need to put all of this in my calculations, and for the sake of Allah, I take the best decision that Allah knows my heart. And by the way, it's not necessarily there is one answer for that. Maybe your condition is different from mine. That's why here comes the importance of Hadith Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَاسْتَفْتِ قَلْبَكَ وَلَوْ النَّاسِ. We need to do your own ijtihad now because it's a very specific case. Wallahu a'lam. I thought the Isha is 9:45 or 10. Okay, sorry. We have a few minutes. Seer? Okay. طيب. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Oh, actually, I finished. طيب, and I finished. If you want to have any other question about the graduality, or with non-Muslims or non-practicing Muslims, but the idea, let's be wise, and let me just remind myself and yourselves with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam methodology. One of the best examples for us as people who think that we are practicing Islam, inshallah we are as such. Allah yazikum khair, barakallahu fikum. You know, a young man came to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He asked him to give him a permission to commit the zina. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine someone who came to ask to do a major sin from the source of legislation? It's really amazing. But it gives you an idea about how difficult it was for that man, that he is under an unbelievable pressure of his sexual desire. At the same time, he's afraid of committing a haram. So he wants a license. SubhanAllah. Wallahi. Yeah, because it gives you this kind of conflict inside himself. He wants, but he's afraid and he respects. So this kind of conflict. He came. Now the Sahaba is there. Ya Rasul, even leave zina. Now, normally, if any one of us, including myself, imagine that I'm giving the dars, the young man in front of you can say, Sheikh, is there any kind of license, rukhsah in Islam that I cannot commit zina? Maybe I will become very angry. I say, yeah, Sheikh, are you insulting me? What do you think? Do you think I'm working in a prostitution house? What do you? You want me to give me a license? At least I will be a little bit angry. Because I will consider it an insult for me. You want from me a permission? Normally, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look, he did not even show any kind of anger from him. He asked him to come closer. He sat next to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he put his two thighs next to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like when we do the tashahhud. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam put his hand sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his chest. And he said, and he asked him, قال أترضاه لأمك? He said, do you accept people to commit zina with your mother? He said, لا يا رسول الله. No.
قد فقد الناس لا يرضون له لأمهاتهم. The people as well, they don't want it, they are not satisfied, they don't feel happy, they feel very, very upset when someone commits zina with their mothers. Because you have a mother, they have mothers. Because a woman that you will sleep with, it might be a mother of someone, or the daughter of someone, or the sister of someone. It's either or. فإذا قال أترضاه لخالتك, for your aunt, no يا رسول الله. فكذا الناس, they don't accept it, they don't. أترضاه لأختك, for your sister, no يا رسول الله. You know the normal reaction of an Arab, no يا رسول الله, no I don't. فكذا الناس. He used with him in our words today like a psychological therapy. Okay? Which means he made like a psychological chock for him. Be careful. This woman could be the wife of such, or the daughter, or the mother, or the sister of someone. So what about your feelings? He pushed him to put himself in the place of those people when they discover that someone managed to cheat or to convince or to pay under the circumstances of a need, and he committed this kind of fornication or zina with someone. You would like some days to open your eyes and someone has committed this with your daughter, sister, mother. No, Ya Rasulullah. You know these feelings? Okay, please be aware that you will cause this feeling to someone at a certain time. This is, and by the way, I know when I used to say this hadith, some youth, they used to laugh. I say, Sheikh, no one, we have a lot of youth now, they don't care with this, but they say, I don't care, let her do whatever she wants. I mean, because, wallah. Yes, because, by the way, wallahi, I liked this. I was once talking in one of the TV channels, one of my friends in the United States, he sent me a message, he said, Sheikh Amjad, Jazakallah khair, I liked what you were saying about the house and the families and education. I said, I want to add something to your speech next time. He said, what is it? He used most of the time to go to Islamic schools and public schools in Texas. And he used to give khutbah Jum'ah for Muslims in public and Muslim schools. He said, you can add something about what he calls the defitratization of the society. Defitratization. The fitra, like we say, dehumanizing someone. You take him out of the status of humanity, you make him less, then you go and kill him. And no one will care because you dehumanized him. How you will control someone easily, one of the ways, attack the fitra, attack the inner nature that has been designed by God. Your inner nature by God, you feel very upset for some certain crimes without education or without something. By fitra, you feel in the need of protecting, for example, what we call your honor. The base of your honor, your mother, your daughter, your sister, your wife, by default. We don't take long, intensive courses that we are just robots like this, things that feeding us. Be careful if someone's about to touch your wife or your daughter, you have to protect her. To protect her, you must feel angry and you go and protect her. No, this is a fitra. We just manage how to control this fitra in a proper way, okay? We don't go just by suspicion and kill, it's prohibited, okay? But the feelings, it's a normal reaction, fitra. Now some people on earth, they do the defitratization. So therefore some of the hadith that I'm quoting might not affect them at all. أترضاه لأختك شيخ والله sometimes I don't care. What's this? I'm talking about Arabs, Muslims now. I'm not talking about Arabs and Muslims. Because the fitra was hit because of the media, because of the movies, because of the TikTok, because of Netflix, because of many things. You know, boom, boom, boom. The normalization with some certain types of top ranks of haram will do defitratization. That's why, by the way, many people who became addicts on porno sites, they commit what? Incest. You know what's incest? Sifah. Which means to do zina
with a muharrama, which means to rape or to commit mutual zina with iyadu billah, with a sister or a daughter or a mother. A'udhu billah. Do you know how comes one of the reasons? Being addicted in porno sites. What's this? The normalization with porno industry will cause the person to look to this big crime as something normal. Defetratization. Now, I know, these crimes are happening all the time in the history, but with the minimum. The system now is about to normalize, which will iyadu billah. And by the way, one of the biggest crimes ever in the history, and still up to this moment, which is the pedophilia. You know, some countries in Europe, very limited still, they are about to make it normal. Some countries. They have started talking about this. They started to use the first step. Do you know what is it? Minor attracted person. Not a pedophilian. Be careful. He's a minor attracted person. What? What's this step? You know? They call it in the language the connotation. Okay? The dilala. Well, you know, when you use a word, it comes with a meaning. Sometimes the power of the meaning must be normalized or changed, so they change the description. Yeah, for example, the word criminal. You are a criminal. Is it a very tough, strong word or not? Type. If I decided to protect some criminals in the society with a long-term plan, you know what I will do? I started changing the description of a criminal, and I stopped using the word criminal. I will use, for example, something like a man who committed undesired behavior in public affairs. Wallahi, I'm not joking. What did the man do? Be careful, it's human rights. Make it right. What should I say? He committed undesirable behavior according to the public. For example, say, ooh, nice, wow, ooh, it's a point of view. Then it will become what? Point of view. So the word crime will not be used anymore. Or it will be minimized to some certain things. That the people of war decide to use it as a crime. This is part of the normalization, by the way. Believe it or not. It's a philosophy, it's concepts, but the first application is the language. Subhanallah. Anyway, we were discussing tahrim al-khamr, okay? Let's stop. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. We have just 5 minutes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you tomorrow in tafsir, inshallah.